Nice people, too. When he walked up the steps and said Miss Merriam wanted her trunk that night, it didn't surprise me. I just thought she'd seen him somewhere and asked him to bring the message. But I told him he'd have to bring the key to her door. She had a special lock on it. And he brought the key? He must have. He got in. I didn't go upstairs to see. They got little further of any importance from her. She blamed a bootlegging gang for his death, and she insisted over and over that she had no suspicion of what might lie in the trunk, although she admitted buying a certain number of boxes of dress weights for Miss Emily, who said her patient used them for potting flowers and weighting vases. Now and then too a heavy parcel arrived by express addressed to Miss Merriam, and was placed in the hall outside her door until she appeared. Once she said it was books, and I remember I said they'd be heavy reading, the way it took even to lift it. And another time she said she'd been having some old flat silver replated, and she showed me a spoon. But I wasn't suspicious. If I watched all the queer things my roomers do, I'd go crazy. Yet you had read about the substitution of the dress weights for the gold, hadn't you? How on earth was I to connect this Lucy Merriam with the Lancaster family? Everybody knew they didn't have a nurse. This paper now, with the photograph. You were interested enough in these murders to put up a chain on your front door, and on the kitchen door too. But you never saw that picture until this morning. Is that your statement? See here, she said, raising herself in bed. I'm not under arrest, am I? If I am, I'll get a lawyer. If I'm not, you'll take what I'm telling you I told you about that picture. Why should I have gone over to Crescent Place this morning, if I had anything to hide? And here I believe the inspector smiled grimly. Well, you see, Mrs. McMullen, the trunk was already gone, wasn't it? And the money. It was onto this scene that without the slightest warning a new figure projected itself. The bedroom door opened and a girl rushed into the room, a pretty girl in a uniform with a thin summer coat over it, and with a face the color of chalk. She took in the picture instantly, and with a quick gesture she wrenched the door open again. But she was not quick enough, for Herbert Dean caught it and slammed it shut. But I gather that he was gentle with her when he spoke. I see you've heard, Peggy. Then it's true? I'm sorry. It is true. She stood there leaning against the door and looking at nobody. Dead? She said. He's dead. My husband's dead, Mother, and I'm going to have a baby. They were almost uncomfortable. Peggy was hysterical and beyond questioning, and some instinctive delicacy got them out of the room. They were on the whole well impressed by the mother, and whether Peggy was or was not implicated in the theft of the trunk is unimportant just then. We were on a murder case, the inspector said later, and Holmes hadn't killed Mrs. Lancaster. He was a bootlegger and a thief, but he wasn't a killer. So we let her have a little time to herself. They found an overworked servant somewhere, and she showed them Miss Merriam's room. It was still unlocked, and so far as evidence went it yielded nothing whatever. It was a front room on the second floor, and its strategic value lay in its outlook, according to the police. She could be pretty sure no one she knew was anywhere around before she started out. And that was important. The public library was just across the street. The room itself contained little of a personal character, a few simple toilet articles on the dresser, books on a table, a pathetic and half-eaten box of candy and some writing paper, pen and ink on a small desk in a corner, about completed the list. The desk blotter had been used, but nothing on it was legible, although Herbert Dean took it with him when they left. The only thing of any value they had extracted from Peggy was the location of Holmes's little place in the country. This, as they had expected, was out the North Road and some 6 miles beyond where the body had been found, and it was to this property that they went at once. Inspector Briggs, Mr. Sullivan, a plainclothes man whose name I never heard, and Herbert Dean, still carefully holding and protecting that desk blotter. Be careful, Smith. The inspector admonished the uniformed driver. Mr. Dean back here has got the whole story of these crimes in his lap. Spill him and you lose your job. There was no difficulty whatever about finding the place, which they reached rather late in the afternoon. Reticent as Holmes had always been about it, there was no attempt to disguise his ownership of the property, for on the narrow dirt road leading in from the highway a mailbox on a post was marked W. Holmes in plain black letters. The car turned in there and the officers got out at the house.